Hello everyone, welcome. This is Fridays with Father. It's July 30th and as you can see I'm not in my office, I'm not in the chapel, I'm actually in the rectory kitchen here today and I'm about to make a cup of tea, would you know. Well, if you remember some time ago I made a cup of tea during Fridays with Father and showed you how I did it, or how I learned how to make tea, and it seems that a lot of people out there kind of got a kick out of me making a cup of tea. And a number of people sort of said, can you repeat that please? Can you do it again? And I'm not sure whether it's because they didn't understand it the first time round or they were amused by it or whatever. But can I make a cup of tea again? Of course I can. I make a cup of tea at least 3 times a day. And I'd happily make a cup of tea here right now today as I talk to you. But of course, a disclaimer before I start is, that this is not the definitive way of making a cup of tea. This is just a cup of tea of somebody who learned from an early age how to make tea back in Wales and has a few tips on how to make the best cup of tea available. Okay, so I think one of the first things I said to you the last time was what's really important is the water needs to be boiling or just off the boil, but it needs to be boiled. You can't just take water out of the tap and hot water and put that to make tea because it won't work. It'll be horrible. You need a nice cup of tea which is hot, or as my mother would say, she likes it to scald the back of her tonsils. So in order to boil your kettle, boil your water, you need a kettle, whether it's stovetop or electric, or you could even, I suppose, boil water in the microwave. But anyway, boil your kettle like so, and there you are, it's coming to boil right now. So apart from the kettle with the boiling water, the best way to make tea is in a teapot. Some kind of young folks these days, they just make it by putting the tea bag into the teacup. No, not really. It's best coming out of a teapot. All right. So this is my teapot. I brought it all the way from Wales, and I make my tea in this every day. Before you use a teapot, you have to warm it. You can't use it cold. That's cold right now. So what you do is, you take the kettle which is boiled, it's just off the boil, and you put a little bit of hot water in there, and you splash it around, okay, in order to warm the pot. Warming the pot is essential. So you swish it around like this in the teapot, okay. In the meantime, you boil the kettle again to bring it back to the boil, okay. Tip the water out into the sink like that, empty the water out, okay. Then get your tea bag. I'm using 1 tea bag. Tell you about tea in a minute. 1 tea bag in the pot like that. It's just for 1 person. It might be enough for 2 people. And then you take your boiled kettle and you put the water into the pot. I'm filling this about halfway because it's only just me that's having the tea, okay? And then what you need to do is put your lid on the teapot like so, pop pop, and then on top of the teapot your tea cozy, okay? This is a teapot cozy. A parishioner here knitted it for me. It's wonderful. I use it all the time. And you sit the teapot cozy over the teapot. And why do you do that? So that your tea doesn't get cold. So it remains hot. So that it scalds the back of your tonsils. Okay? Now, obviously I'm from cooler climes, throughout the year. So that, there's a danger that the tea could go cold. It certainly go cold in Chicago in the winter. But right now in July it doesn't matter. But you've got to keep it hot. So there you are. And then you just leave it. You leave the tea bag to brew with the water, or to steep, as some people say, or to mash. So you need to leave that, a few minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, depending how strong you like your tea. If you like your tea really strong, leave it longer. If you like it weak tea, then, drink it earlier. The tea that we drink from where I come from is what you would generally call black tea. just black tea. It's generally a mix, a blend of Assam, I would say, and Darjeeling, I think. But it's not posh tea. This is kind of regular black tea that you can buy in any supermarket in the United Kingdom. It's not a posh Twinings tea or a Taylor's tea, even though they're all really lovely. But this would be equivalent, I suppose, to what you call like English breakfast or Irish breakfast tea. But I mean, it's just regular black tea, and it would be stronger than the black tea that we would have in this country. So again, you need to adjust, your tea to your taste buds more than anything else. So in the meantime, that's brewing away. So then what you need then is you need a cup. You need a cup. There's a cup. And then in order to make your tea, you'll need some milk, because we drink tea generally with milk. We don't drink it with lemon. Some people drink it black, but it's rare. But most people who are tea drinkers in Wales, they drink it with milk. And we tend to pour the milk in first, okay? So you put the milk in the bottom of your mug or your cup, and so it's ready to pour the tea on top. There's a debate in Britain about what's posher, what's the correct thing. Do you, put the milk in afterwards, or do you do like I do, which is they call pre-lactate? You put the milk in first. I don't think it really matters one way or the other. It's all about personal taste, but we do have it with milk, and that's basically tea for us in Wales. Anything else really is like an infusion. Green tea doesn't really qualify as tea, even though we call it tea, at least to us. So anyway, so I've let that brew for a while, as you can see, and then occasionally you want to pick up the teapot and swish it around like this. Swish it around so it really encourages the brewing, and then just like splash a bit of it into the sink and have a look at the color of the tea. If it's kind of like, orange enough for you, then you're ready to pour. And I've just splashed a bit then, and it looks like it's brewed enough ready for my tastes. So I kind of like a medium cup of tea, not too strong, not too weak. And then what you do is, quite simply, you pour your tea into your cup on top of your milk, right? And there you are, nice hot brew. And there we have, my tea is ready. Now, some people like to have sugar with their tea. I don't, and I think I've told some of you before. I don't have sugar with my tea because when I was about 12, I gave up sugar for Lent. And so I didn't have sugar in my tea for the whole of Lent. And then when I came back to put sugar in my tea after Easter, I couldn't take it. It tasted like syrup. It was disgusting. So I just abandoned sugar in my tea completely. But some people do like a splash of sugar just to sweeten things up. So let me just taste this brew. It's a good cuppa. Yeah, it scalds the back of your tonsils, and it lifts your spirits. Everything feels better after a good cup of tea. So there we are. There's my tea demonstration for you yet again. Apologies for those who didn't like it the first time round and have to suffer it the second time around. But tea has been an important part of my life growing up. I was kind of like nurtured on tea. My mother would give me tea and milk and sugar in my baby's bottle, when I was a baby. Same with my brothers. And I grew up drinking tea, and we liked tea as kids most of all because you could dunk biscuits into them or dunk cookies in, So, whether you liked the tea or not, you would have a cup of tea so you could like dunk your biscuits into the tea, okay? So, what did I want to say about that, which is of any relevance at all? Not a lot, except that, I learned about this from a book? No. From a video? No. Did a teacher sit down and show me how to do this? No. I learned this from my parents, my parents and their example. They've been making tea all their lives, and they've shown me how to make tea now, and I'm making tea throughout my life, and I'm showing you. So it's been passed on. It's been passed on. And I say that to you because, when we talk about faith and we talk about our religion and everything to do with God, which is wonderful, the first and the best teachers of all are our parents, the people who are parents or parent examples to us in our life. They're the ones who show us what is really important. And so from an early age, they showed me tea and the art of tea making, for which I'm, indebted eternally. But more importantly, they showed me the ways of the faith, and they brought me to Jesus, and that is essential. I think their example. I didn't read about Jesus in a book. Oh, I did, but I mean, I didn't find out about him in a book. I got to know Jesus because somebody introduced me to him, and that was my parents. So, and I say that to you today because the thing I wanted to talk about, which I forgot last week, it was on my list of things to mention, and I didn't do it, was vocations. Vocations to the religious life and vocations to the priesthood. And how that comes about, and how does that come about? Frankly, I have not got a clue. It's a mystery. It's the work of God. It's the work of God. God, chooses those and calls those that God wants to serve as ordained ministers or consecrated lives within the life of the church, and that's how it happens. That it's God's will that those things happen. However, there are certain things I think in our life as Catholics that we can do in order to sort of like, if you like, what's the word? Seed the bed, seed the field, or prepare the soil, or that kind of thing. And one of those things is like the very basics, rudimentary things of faith that we can do. And that's like passing on the faith. In the same way my mother and father passed on Jesus to me in my life, and making, if you like, the land fertile in my own soul, for Jesus to call me, or for me to be aware that Jesus was calling me. So likewise, in our families, in our parishes, whilst we have no say over who becomes a priest and who becomes a nun or who becomes a bishop, we have no say over that, really. Not really. We can, if you like, participate in the great act, if you like, of God's calling by preparing the soil, if you like, and tilling the soil and watering the seeds, and then so it's ready whenever God may choose to call. And that is something which we can all be involved in, and it's not just not just parents, but I give you the example of my parents to you as like prime examples of the importance of their teaching and their passing on of the basics of our faith to our young people today. So when we talk about vocations, I'd like to be able to think that if we said, our parish had, a great youth program, a great religious ed program, a great everything, if we had a great inspiring priest to, sort of get, guys to go to the seminary, that would produce lots of vocations. I wish I could say that, but I don't actually believe it works that way. I think lots of those different things help. I think it helps if you have a good youth program. I think it helps if you have a good priest to sort of like give an example. But I don't think it works that way. I think it really is the act of God intervening in the life of people and in the life of a parish and the life of a family. But the thing that we can do is to make that soil, fertile and ready to bear fruit. I think that's the important thing there. I know, as I say, I'm indebted to my own parents, and my own vocation story really is really a lot to do with my parents and what they show me and what the support that they've given me. And I'm sure other priests would say the same. The other kind of like big influences in like my own vocation story would be the example of key or certain priests that God put in my life, in my way, at a certain time, and their example inspired me or encouraged me. Likewise, I was encouraged by my teachers in school. I was taught by a number of different nuns. They inspired me. They brought me on, to the point when Christ in some ways was ready to sort of say, hey, you should think about this. But there's no magic formula. I say all this to you today because, our church is wanting for priests and for nuns. The world, I think, is wanting for priests and nuns. And you can sort of say, well, if we did this or we did that, or if we allowed these people to become priests or those people to become priests, then we'd have more. And you might be right in about all those different things. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to is that, that God has God's will. And it's important that God does have his will, does have his way, so that Jesus chooses the ones that he wants to serve, for good or for bad, that it's his will that gets done and not ours, I see certain people, even in this parish here at Church of the Holy Spirit, certain, young people who I find kind of very impressive, and I think, I wonder if they've considered a vocation. And one of these days, I think I probably may say to them, have you ever thought about becoming a priest or becoming a nun? Because I see things in you which stand out, and you could be a good priest and good nun. And that might help. Again, it's like nurturing, tilling the soil, watering the seed. But it doesn't mean to say, that just because I think that so-and-so looks like he'd make a great priest, it'll actually happen. Because vocations have twists and turns, and ultimately what comes about is what God wants. So I put that before you today, that our job, I think everybody's job here in this parish, in this world, is in terms of vocations, is to prepare the soil and to encourage people and to maybe suggest or maybe encourage people, but don't think that we have some way whereby we can fabricate priests as if they were part of a sausage factory, because that just doesn't work. It's just vocations don't happen that way. I think that when we have a community which is vibrant and lively and there's lots of ministry and lots of stuff going on, I think that really we are sort of like tilling the soil there and making the soil fertile. And I think that it's ripe then for Jesus to produce the vocations as and when he sees fit. So we need to trust that the vocation is really the hand of God touching people's lives, and not Father Jeremy choosing people because he thinks they'll be really cool. Okay, so I said to people before, I've been a priest now 29 years, be 30 years next year, and it's it's the best thing that I've done with my life, is become a priest. The second best thing was come to Chicago. I know my Welsh friends won't want to hear me say that, but the second best thing I did was come here, because in some ways here I think that my vocation has grown, and it's all about, at the end of the day, I think, cooperating with the grace of God. When we cooperate with what God is asking of us, things happen. When we don't, when we resist, or we think, well, I want to go that way instead of this way, then we kind of stagnate, and we're not very creative. But when we're in tune, really, when we're prayerfully in tune with Jesus, things flow, and things happen. So I'm excited to share that with you today. So that's all I've got time for today, really. You see me make a cup of tea again. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sorry if you didn't. The only thing to mention is that next Tuesday we have a little social event called Popcorn and Popsicles. I know. You think, what is that all about? It's about storytelling. And Joyce Wickland, our resident storyteller, will be here in the courtyard reading stories to us. Now you might think, well, that's for kids. That's children's story time. Well, aren't we all kids at heart, I mean, Don't you like having stories be read to you? I do. So I will be there at popcorn and popsicles. I'll be young at heart with all the other youngsters too, and you're invited to come as well. It's at 6:30, and it's like a mini fundraiser, and it's just $5 just for you to be there, and with that you get popsicles and popcorn and just the pleasure of being, involved in an activity in our wonderful parish. And together we will till the soil, water the seeds, and foster, please God, vocations. Right, I better go because this tea is getting cold, and like my mother, it's better when it tickles the tonsils. Be joyful, keep the faith, see you at Mass on Sunday. Bye.